Google Analytics can show you which marketing efforts are actually bringing in clients, where your best fit leads are coming from, and which pages on your site are doing the heavy lifting in your business. None of that happens though until it's set up. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get it installed, collecting data, and verified that it's working in under 10 minutes. My name is Ashley Clayton. I'm a marketing ecosystem strategist, and I help service providers, coaches, and consultants hear what their marketing is telling them. And that's exactly who I'm making this video for. What's going to make this different than the rest of the how to set up Google Analytics videos out there is that I'm going to actually account for the nuances of running a service provider and coaching business. We're going to cover the pieces that actually matter for you here and throughout the rest of this series on Google Analytics. So I'd keep watching this video all the way through, and I promise to keep it as easy and as approachable as analytics can get. If you can copy and paste, you can do anything in this video. Most start a blog in 10 minutes posts have an analytics step. It's one line treated like a box to check. This video is going to be that entire checkbox done properly by a 15-year analytics expert. By the end, you're going to have it turned on, collecting data, and have the proof that it's working. This is the same starting point that everyone has when working with Google Analytics, myself and my clients included. If Google Analytics is already on your site, maybe a web developer or you set it up, you can actually skip ahead if you want to confirm that it's actually working. But I would actually watch this whole thing because I'm going to be pointing out a few settings worth double checking within your own setup. Before we get into it though, turning on the tool is today's job. Knowing what it's telling you is a totally different skill. And that's what my free 8-day email course, Metrics That Talk Back, is for. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment, and you can grab it now or come back for it at the end. Either way, it's there when you're ready. The entire install is just 3 steps. 1, create a free Google Analytics property at analytics.google.com. 2, copy your measurement ID and paste it into the analytics field of whatever platform runs your website. And 3, open your site in another tab and watch yourself show up in the real-time report. That's it. That's the whole install. The rest of this video is going to be us doing those 3 steps together, and the video is probably going to be longer than 10 minutes because I will actually explain what you're seeing and the decisions you're making along the way as you're getting this set up, and also highlighting those things that are going to save future you a headache. In a very quick naming note, you may see GA4 on the screen or and around the internet. It's just the name of the current version. It's the same tool and it's still free. I'm just going to be referring to it as Google Analytics to keep it simple. Before we touch anything, you will need 2 things first. A Google account, so if you've got a Gmail or a branded email through something like Google Workspaces, that will count. And the other thing that you're going to need is access to your website's backend, whether that's your WordPress, Squarespace, Showit, Kajabi, Wix, or whatever you're using. You will not need a developer for this, I promise. Your first step is to go to analytics.google.com and sign in. I will have that link in the description below so you can go there directly. And once you're signed in, there may be a button that says start measuring, or it may just bring you to a screen that's going to look something like this. Once you're here, what it's asking you is, what is your account name? For most of us, the account name and the property name are going to wind up being the same because we just have one business that we're setting this up for. If you do have multiple businesses, generally you'll have kind of the umbrella. The umbrella business name would be the account name. So for this, I'm going to follow the example that I would set up for my site, which is one business for that, but I wanted to highlight that. So name, and I'm just using kind of a throwaway because I will be deleting this, but you're going to want to put in your actual business name here. And I also don't have time to dive into it too deeply here, but it is worth mentioning that there are going to be some ways to set it up that are more privacy centric than others. I'm going to default to showing you how to set it up with that privacy consciousness in mind. I do always encourage you to speak locally with somebody that's a compliance or a legal authority in such matters. This is just how I have mine set up, and so just mirror this for right now. And I will actually be doing a deeper dive video on privacy and consent in that. But for right now, we're setting this up in the most restricted way where we're not sharing anything back to Google. So all you need to know is don't check this first box. The rest of this is okay. So I'm going to click next. And I mentioned because I have one business, so my account and my property name are going to be the same. If you did have umbrella business and you have business unit 1, business unit 2, each business unit would get their own property. So you could have one account with multiple properties underneath it. I'll have a whole video on the mistakes that I see people make, but there's one I want to address here briefly. If you have one business and all of that, you do not need to set up additional properties if you're connecting to something like lead pages or anything like that. Everything should be happening under that one property because it's one marketing ecosystem. So I'm going to wanted to highlight that. All right. The next quality of life thing is making sure that the time zone that's set here matches your cart time zone. An example is my cart's time zone is in Central Time because that's where I'm located. Some cart programs don't allow you to change that, but so you want to make sure that because we have the ability to change that here in Google Analytics, that we make those line up. Why do we need those to line up? Let's say that somebody makes a purchase at 11 p.m. Pacific time, and I did not change the setting in my Google. Google would attribute that as 11 p.m. on the 1st versus my cart program, which is 2 hours. Time zone math is fun. 2 hours ahead of the Pacific time would actually attribute that to the 2nd. And so the problem there is that it's going to mess up numbers down the road. So that's why you want these to match. So that is the takeaway here. The same with the currency. If you take more than one currency, go with the one that you predominantly do business in. For me, that's going to be the US dollar. The next thing you're going to do is provide the business details. All this is it's helping Google kind of let you know, hey, these are typical for your industry, and there's some other things. This is not sharing information back to Google. It's Google actually giving information to you. For most of us, this is going to be business and industrial. It's not. You can go back and change it later. So it's not what's referred to as a destructive choice, which kind of eliminates other pathways. This is one that you can change it as much as you want to. So if you want to take the time to go through the list and find something that might fit you a little bit better, like if you're a bookkeeper, finance would actually be a better fit. But if you don't see anything that really you feel is better, just go ahead and go with business because you're a business owner. And then small business is probably what a lot of us are going to pick. And then what I'm going to want you to do is you're going to click all 4 of these. Leave this one unchecked because here's why. You click this one. This is basically you building everything from scratch. And the goal here is, hey, we want the best you can give us out of the box. And so, in my opinion, this is also why Google kind of built out of the box is meant to fit the broadest amount of use cases is, as a business owner, you want to understand how you're generating leads. As a business owner, you're wanting to drive those sales to your business and also understanding what role your website and the rest of your marketing ecosystem is playing in how people are becoming leads and sales, as well as how well you are retaining and having people come back to your website. So these are all things that are going to work for you out of the box. So I always check all of those. At this point, it's going to bring up the terms for your country or your region. Again, please read through these. I've already read through them. I know this, so we're not going to take the time to go through it, but read it. If you need to consult with a lawyer, do that. Again, the method I'm setting up is the most privacy-centric, so data processing may or may not apply to you. There are separate terms for that, so if you're not sure, again, I will cover that in the privacy and compliance video for things. I'm going to leave this unchecked for now. but I will accept the service agreement for that. We're going to create a web stream, but because everybody's going to have a website, so I'm going to just show you that one, but you really don't necessarily need to worry about these app ones unless you have actually invested in having an app that's been basically developed from the ground up. But again, that is a very special use case. For this, I am actually going to use my domain website. For me, I'm going to do this though. So that way I know I can delete this. And so you'll put in your domain, your main domain, and then you'll put in, you can put main website. There's a couple of other options that you could do with that, but that will all work. And you can use the same data stream across different platforms. We'll get into that in just a second. That's a little bit later in this video, and then I go really deep into that aspect in another one. But right now, because I want you to know what you're enabling, I am going to pause and go through these. You do want to leave the enhanced measurement on. This is actually one of my favorite things about the updates they made when they switched to the new platform, is because the things that are here are things you used to have to actually involve a developer to set up for you. But now it comes out of the box. Things like tracking scrolls on your website, outbound clicks. So if somebody clicks a link on your site and they go somewhere else, that's what an outbound click is. Searches on your site, form interactions, video engagement. That works especially well if you're embedding YouTube videos on your site. As well as file downloads. So these are all kind of basic website behaviors that the majority of websites have. So that's why they're included in the out of the box. All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to hit create and continue. And then I am going to click that, and it will take just a second. And it's going to do something interesting because I do already have Google Analytics implemented on my site. It is going to go in and tell me, oh, we already have this. Do you want to use this? For right now, I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm just because it's going to get us that measurement ID, which you'll wind up getting. So this is the measurement ID that we'll use. But before I grab that, because that's actually our first step. So we've created the account at this point. This is the measurement ID that I mentioned in step 2. So you're going to want to go ahead and copy that. You can click that to copy it, or you can highlight and copy, whichever you prefer. I would recommend this because it's going to give you exactly what you need. The other thing that it did here is it detected that my site runs on WordPress, which is true. And so it's giving me how they want me to install it. And so you'll see that there's a Google Site Kit that they provide. It's okay. It can be a little wonky, and we'll get into that now as we kind of move on to the next step of where do you put that measurement ID that we just copied. So measurement ID is copied. If you're on Squarespace, I believe that it's settings and then developer tools or marketing. It might be in 2 spots. And then it'll say Google Analytics, and then you just paste the measurement ID that we've got here. All right, so we've got that, but since I use Elementor and WordPress, I will show you how to do that. We're going to start more at the WordPress angle, and then we'll go into Elementor specifically there. So you'll see that Site Kit by Google is available. So we could actually bring this up, and then it's just a matter of pasting in the ID when it asks for it. We can do that. The issue is that, as you can see with the ratings, it doesn't always work as intended, and I don't know, because it's controlled by Google, how much control you actually get back with some of that, which is why I prefer to go a more manual route for that. If you don't have something that will currently install custom code, you can just search for custom code in the plugins, and this is the one that I recommend if you don't have something else. Where mine's actually implemented is this has a custom code area in it. So if you have this app, I would recommend picking this, or if you're running this and Elementor, doing it in Elementor, just pick one spot so you know where your custom code goes. But whether you're using, this one, or the custom code for Elementor, it's going to be the same similar process to what we're going to do here. So go to custom code. We're going to do new code. This is also going to be the same for anybody that has to manually put in the code itself for things. All right, so back to this so we can get that code. I'm ignoring these because it does also pull in several other options if you do any of these, so that it would also pull in Squarespace automatically as well. Because again, Google's gotten better about understanding what most people are using and making the setup as easy as possible. But this will be the code that we need to install it manually. You don't need to know what this does. It's just, it is a trusted code because you don't want to just paste random codes. I went directly to Google and got this, so I know that it's the good code. And I will paste that here. Okay, and so the location is telling me where it's going to go. So let's make sure we're going to put that in the right location. So it says head. If I go back over here, copy and paste the code in every section of your website immediately after the head element. So by putting it here, I know that that is where we need to put it. So I've got that here. I'm going to publish, and where it says every page, because you can put it on certain pages, but if you want on every page, some of the code snippet plugins will have something similar to this of, hey, where do you want this to show up? And so in this case, we want the entire site, and we'll go ahead and save and close. And now I didn't name it. So I'm going to name it there we go. So I will update that way it takes the name. All right. So at this point, we have covered WordPress, if you have to do it manually. Now, there's other platforms out there. So if you want to know how it works for your specific platform, and this actually works for any sort of tool, is you do want to go and Google it. So what you're trying to do, I'm trying to install Google Analytics on Kajabi in this case. So I did this search, and it's, oh, okay, yes, you can do this. So the AI overview lets me know that it's possible. And then it tries to connect me with not just some videos, if that's what you prefer. I like to also look at the documentation from the actual platform. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what it says. I'm looking, okay, this is telling me, but if you see UA or Universal Analytics anywhere, that's the old version. So Google's serving up an old version, but what I'm looking for is the current version, which is GA4. So if I go here, this is actually the documentation that I will want to follow for this. And then it gives you steps, it gives you videos of how to get that on your Kajabi site if that's what you're on. So my question to you guys is, what platform are you using? Drop it in the comments. And if there's a specific got you, like, don't follow the UA instructions Google tells you for Kajabi, I will let you know as well. And if your website is your only platform that you're operating off of, so for example, if you're on WordPress and you also have WooCommerce, that may be all you need to do. But the reality is most of us might have ThriveCart, SameCart, different checkout platforms, landing page builders, like Kit, lead pages, all of that are part of our ecosystems. This is where most of those tutorials stop. And so I want to go into how you want to make sure that you have that code on your landing page tools. Because if all you did was put the code on your main website, you're likely not fully done. And so each of your other pieces are going to need that same measurement ID. Let's go back here. I'm going to grab this measurement ID again. For example, I have a Kit landing page that I have things on. What I'm going to do here is I am going to go to settings, SEO and analytics, and then it's going to ask me what I want to do with analytics. And then you just put your measurement ID in there, and then you hit save. And then now this landing page is going to feed back into that same web property. You want to use the same measurement ID across everything you can within the same business. So that way the handoffs between those systems will stay connected and you don't lose visibility if somebody is on your website and then you don't know what they do from the cart or the checkout or anything like that, if they don't come back to your website too. And so there is a separate configuration step that I'm going to be covering in another video that will kind of stitch all these into a continuous journey. But for today, getting the ID onto each of those other pieces of your ecosystem means that we'll be starting the clock on your analytics everywhere at once. And then I'll also link to the configuration video in the description so that you can see it once you're ready for that step. Because I know this, even just this part can still feel like a lot. So I want to say congrats. At this point, you should have the measurement ID everywhere that you need it, and that provides a place to put it. Sadly, I will say that social media platforms don't want this, so you can't put your measurement ID on your social profiles, and I'm happy to dish on the reasons and some alternatives that you can do in a separate video if you'd like. But before we are completely done and before I feel comfortable letting you guys go with this, is let's make sure that the install actually worked. So how do we do that? The first way is to open your website in a separate tab. So let me go there. Just go here. And I'm going to go back to analytics, and this says no data received. Let me go ahead and hit next. And this is something that, to pay attention to, is it may take up to 48 hours before the property starts collecting data. I've seen this take anywhere from about 5 minutes to maybe 30. So I haven't seen the full 48 hours, but the way we can check this is once you have it in there, you can go to the real-time overview. Okay, so by giving it enough time to go through everything, this took maybe about 5-10 minutes before the visits that I did showed up here. And so this tells me that I now have it correctly installed. So if nothing shows up immediately, don't panic. Like I said, give it maybe up to an hour or so, come back and check it. I don't think I've ever seen it take any longer than that. It really just depends. But what we've finished doing at this point is just activating Google Analytics. And I'm being intentional with that word because out of the box, Google's going to give you those directional basics. I cover that in my Google Analytics Explained video in this playlist. And so it's going to give you those things like where your visitors are coming from, which page they're landing on, what they click. And configuration is the part that's left out of those how to start a blog in 10 minutes. Treating the analytics like a checkbox is because the configuration is missing. And that's where the tool learns your business. So where you define what counts as a lead for you, what journeys matter most, and you want to set up measurement around those. Which behaviors deserve to be declared key events, which is Google's name for conversion events, or goals is what they've been referred to in the past. It's all basically the same thing. And then the checklists end exactly where we are right now. And then you just tell, hey, let it ride. You'll get some data as things go through. And they like to call your analytics setup done at this stage. It's not. I am pausing here on purpose. One, just to let you, celebrate this milestone of getting it activated. And then you can come to the configuration videos later because all of those each deserve their own space. And building these skills and this literacy in small iterations is actually the better way to build out your measurement ecosystem instead of just here's your soup to nuts all at once, inundate you with everything. And some of the videos that are available are already linked in the playlist below, and more coming over the next several weeks. So if you want the next step to find you instead of the other way around, go ahead and subscribe and you'll get notified whenever they are released. And if you're wondering if what you did today even mattered, even when you know that there's still more to configure, I want to reassure you it absolutely did, no matter how you feel right now. I hope you feel pretty excited because, you just did something awesome. And the thing with Google Analytics is it's only going to record data moving forward. There's no reactive data. I can't go back and figure out, well, what were my views and everything last week, even out of the box. Every week that this isn't installed is data that you're never going to get back. And so from today, from this moment, it's collecting. So for the people that, maybe you installed it when your site was up, but maybe haven't looked at it, you have more data to build from that can already help you make decisions versus right now, if I go look at the generate leads, I really only have no data available here. And you won't for a little bit because Google will take some time to process because it's smart enough to know of if I'm looking at it on my desktop and then I am signed into Chrome and I look at it on my phone, I'm still the same user. And so it may take that full 48 hours for report data to show, but not for the real-time data to come in. So off the bat, this is not especially useful. I can't do anything with it today. But let me show you something. This is a out-of-the-box environment that I finished and completed the steps where we are right now. When I launched my new website a couple of years ago, and I set this up. I set up my custom environment on the same site. Not a recommended setup. I'm doing it because I know what I'm doing with this, but also so you guys could see the difference in something that has been running with just out of the box versus if I'm looking to see acquisition. Again, this is a little bit older setup, so I don't have the same labels that they have now that are a lot more friendly of generating leads, driving sales, understanding that matches those goals you set up. But the same traffic acquisition here, and then what I clicked on, it's still the same, but where this has nothing, this tells me, and this is, so this is January through today, and I have data going further back. I can see where all of my traffic is coming from. And you can see that there's, a lot here under this unassigned one and things. So I'm just basically looking here. So you can see the difference with this, and you can see where the default key event is purchased, but you have to do extra custom setup to that, which we'll cover later. But you can see that there's nothing in this key events category. Compare that with my custom environment, and you can see that I've got much more richer data. I've customized, I didn't stay on the other screen long, but I've added a couple of these different cards so I know what's going on. But if I go back to that same traffic acquisition report, you'll notice that this, and actually I'm going to take off the comparison to make this easier. That way it looks similar. So we've got this one, and you can see how the numbers actually changed here. Because I have some things that are more defined, they're going in different spots. Because I have customization, I can set up things that I know how I'm getting found through AI, for example. And you can see here that I've got key events defined, so I can see what is happening with it, where, hey, the AI traffic is doing what I want it to do, where they're becoming leads and things like that. And so this is the core thing that we'll be covering in future videos of how to get this where this data becomes useful for that. This is all coming from the same tool. This is all in the same free tier. And I made the improvements to my environment one iteration at a time. And so the next videos in this playlist are going to be the ones that'll help you know what to set up first and what to configure so that you can start to understand what's working in your marketing. Because the reality is every person who lands on your site and leaves without taking action is telling you something. That's what the other half of the marketing conversation is. And most people were never taught how to listen to it. Metrics That Talk Back is my free 8-day email course that teaches you which of those signals matter and what to do about each one. It's the framework underneath everything that I teach on this channel, and the link for that is in the description. But for right now, your data clock is now up and running. And the next thing we're going to get into is how to actually configure things first so that your data is usable and starts to answer your questions instead of just accumulating into this wall of numbers that you're not sure what to do with. So I will see you next time.